Like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson ahead of him, and you're like, the Bo tape this year and the physical tools, I don't know why you would take either of those guys over Bo. I think he deserves a lot of credit for not letting that opening shellacking in the Dome to Georgia rock his season, because obviously they did not go well. But like after that, he just put on an absolute clinic, like you said, completing 70% of his passes, was an absolute machine. He was going throw for throw with Michael Penix Jr. At UW in that rough loss at home, and he got banged up later on in the season. Maybe that was partly because he ran the ball a lot more. But I mean, UCLA gets Kent. I think they got Kent State's quarterback to replace DTR in the portal. So they should be fine. He had big numbers in that scheme last year, and their head coach just left to be the OC at Colorado. But you look at the Pac-12, Matt Green, Shedeur Sanders, you've got Arizona State, which is a huge question mark. It might be DJU territory. Bo Nix at Oregon. You've got Caleb Williams back at USC. Jaden DeLora back at Arizona. Cam Ward graduated, so he's gone out of eligibility. But Michael Penix Jr. at Washington, you look at the top of this conference. We've talked about it all year this year. It's probably the most underrated conference in college football, and they return all these big superstar quarterbacks. Like, I think the Pac-12 is going to be maybe even better next year. And I think even though they didn't make the playoff this year, they didn't get a playoff team, I think they're in great position to make it next year because the quarterback play is going to be excellent in back-to-back years, and this is quietly becoming like the place to be for quarterbacks. And I think they're even going to have more talent at the top of this conference and at the quarterback spot than previous years.
Yeah, I think so. And they're also, they brought in, there's 2 Alabama commits in the portal right now, too, with Trayshawn Holden and Kyrie Jackson. So, Oregon's definitely making some moves. I know they go at Texas Tech at a conference. Like, this will be the first year Bo Nix doesn't have to play Georgia in his career, so I'm sure he'll be enjoying that. They also go at Utah and at Washington next year. But, yeah, I think they're definitely in a position to contend for a playoff appearance in 2023.
Absolutely. Matt Green, Florida clinched back-to-back losing seasons, but they also clinched not being shut out for the most amount of times in a row with that late field goal against Oregon State. I mean, that was rough. The Vegas Bowl just absolutely crushing the Gators. Jack Miller does not look like the guy down in Gainesville, we can say. But rough game for the Gators, and they fall 6-7 in year one for Billy Napier. Like, look, they're a top 10 team right now in the recruiting rankings, but man, you get the 2024 commit. What's his name? Lanewood,
Lagway,
which is good. So the recruiting stuff's there. He's doing stuff that Dan Mullen did not do, but Dan Mullen did not lose. He never got to the 6-7 territory at UF. The man could coach above all else. And look, the personality may have rubbed some people the wrong way. The recruiting wasn't enough, but like, man, I don't know. I think my question to you, Matt Green, how rough of a year one is this, and like embarrassing just to lose to Oregon State in this fashion, but also, like, how many games does he have to win next year to like keep the hot seat off him? Because 6-7 is not going to cut it at Florida. Like, this is not what you want to start off with. And if you look at previous regimes at UF, they started pretty well. Like, most of them started strong and they kind of fizzled out. He's starting weak, and I don't know. The conference is tough, and the SEC's only getting tougher, and I don't know. Where are you at with this Florida team after year one?
It should be noted that, Dan Mullen did come in and win games, but he did go 6-7 his last year.
Well, hold on. The last year was weird because he had to fire Todd Grantham, and they had the shoe incident with the LSU game. There was some stuff.
No, that was the year before. That was the good season where the shoe happened.
That's
it's right. Like 2021 last season. It's because this is Napier's first year. So this is back-to-back losing seasons for the first time since 78 and 79.
Well, he went 10-3 his first year and 11-2 the second.
But I'm saying, make no mistake, like Napier's year one, this is so much a reflection of Dan Mullen. Like, this is the ticking time bomb that was Florida under Dan Mullen. Was like, he had what Jim McElwain recruited, which already was kind of a little bit on the less than Florida was used to, but they still had a lot of good players. He recruited Kyle Trask. He recruited Kyle Pitts. Like, he recruited a lot of the good players on that defense. So you're seeing like how terrible of a job Dan Mullen was truly doing and how bare the cupboard actually was when Billy Napier got there. I think this is it's hard to put a lot on a first-year coach, and they were like quietly having like a pretty good season too. Like mid-November, they were like 6-3 or whatever, 6-4, I guess, coming down the stretch, and then just losing to Vanderbilt and losing to Florida State, and then just getting absolutely like boat race. Like this bowl game means nothing. You know, this is not a barometer of who they are as a program at all. But damn, you don't want to get blasted 30-3. Was that what it ended up?
Yes.
Like, oh my God, like it was just that it was embarrassing. And I think Florida, as good of a job as it is, it's with Tennessee, back in the East and actually a contender, that makes Florida a lot more difficult of a job. And you're seeing so many recruits come down to Florida and Miami, and you're seeing like Florida's won a couple. And I think Rashada, right? He did commit to Miami the first time, but now he's committed to Florida. But with how good of a recruiter Cristobal is, you're seeing the Miami get a lot of recruits, especially with the NIL stuff they have going on. And Florida State is actually seeing some tangible progress on the field. And, I mean, they're going to be a preseason top 10 team next year. I would have no doubt, just because of the hype that is a program like Florida State. People are ready for Florida State to be back type of thing.
Matt
like
Green,
Florida State's definitely.
There's a case that they're a top 5 team this year.
I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, right now they're playing well for sure, but I mean,
Look at who number
they're a
5
good team.
is right
but
now.
That even goes even more to my point.
Yeah.
Like, it's not easy for Florida to necessarily to get up right now. So I don't know.
You know where they open next year, Matt Green?
Well, yeah, they got to play Utah, right?
They open at Utah next year. They lost to Utah they beat Utah at home this year, which was great. And it was a rough loss for Utah after seeing the way that the rest of the season went. They obviously win the Pac-12 again. But like, you go to Utah, you get Tennessee at home this year, which is good. But you got to go to Kentucky. You go to South Carolina. Obviously, you get Georgia. You get Arkansas at home, which is nice. But you go to LSU, you go to Mizzou, and then you get Florida State. But I think you made another good point about Florida State. Part of the problem I'm worried about with Florida, I don't think Miami, the recruiting has not slowed down. They've been electric on the recruiting trail as well. And I think I'm still a believer in Mario Cristobal getting this thing right in year 2. I'm not jumping ship from Miami yet. But I am also saying that, like, part of the issue with Florida right now is Miami spending a lot of money and they're investing hardcore. And Florida State has figured it out. Like, Florida State is in a really good position. They got the number 1 tight end in the portal that Tennessee was trying to get, the shorter kid. They got, obviously, Jared Verse last year, who was fantastic for them on the edge. They have been fantastic in the portal. They're recruiting really well. I think they're in the top 15 in this class upcoming. But, like, Jordan Travis was awesome. Benson is just an awesome running back. And, like, when Florida State just beat you, they beat you. And if that's rivalry is shifted a little bit, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the ceiling is for this Napier tenure, but I just don't see them being a real, true CFP content, like an actual national title contender anytime soon. I think it's going to be really hard for them.
It is tough to say because, I mean, you look at this year 1 like schedule. Like, we talked about how tough of a schedule this was going to be this year, and you did beat a good Utah team at home. Like, that was a big time win for the first game of a coaching tenure. Like, you lost to what we thought was going to be a good Kentucky team. It turned out to be a pretty mediocre Kentucky team, but not a bad loss by any means. You lost at Tennessee. You lost to LSU team that won the West. You lost to a Georgia team that's the number 1 team in the country. It's like it wasn't really a bad season. You also blew out South Carolina. You beat Texas A&M handedly. It's like they had a pretty solid schedule and were navigating it pretty well in year 1. And then it's like the Vanderbilt loss, just the wheels came off after that. So I'm not really sure. I can't even explain the Vanderbilt, what happened in that to this team down the stretch. And then, it's hard to even know what to make of the bowl game, kind of like I said. But I don't know. They're in a difficult spot. like Florida State is a traditional power, so this isn't a new thing that like Florida has been a good program at the same time Florida State has been a good program. It's not like one has to be up for the other, one has to be down for the other to be up. So it'll be interesting. Their road to being a contender, I think, got much tougher this past season with what Florida State and Tennessee have become.
They can't be 75th in passing again. And I don't know who their quarterback is going to be next year. It's probably not going to be Jack Miller. It's probably going to be a portal guy, right? Like
I think they have to go
guy.
portal. Yeah, they seem like I would almost guarantee they go to the portal. Like, a DJ Uyunglele or something?
You can't risk that. You can't go Richardson, Uyunglele back-to-back.
He wasn't terrible, though.
That's pretty bad.
He was so disappointing for what he was supposed to be. But he wasn't. I mean, Florida's talking about Jack Miller. You think they're not going to take DJ Uyunglele? Like, they don't necessarily have just like the pick of whoever they want necessarily. Like, DJU is big enough to be a quarterback at a top 25 program.
But he's a downgrade from Richardson.
Is he?
I think so. Because Richardson,
I think it's debatable.
I mean, they had a good rushing offense, and I guess
he's at least a way more dynamic runner. Yeah, for sure.
And really hard to bring down. Like, that man was next to impossible to lift sack.
And I think that's what Billy Napier wants. I mean, if you kind of go back to, maybe that's the only kind of player you could get at Louisiana. Maybe? And so, yeah, maybe. But, that could just be the personnel he's had and maybe not his preference. So, we shall see. Like, I mean, I wouldn't rule out someone like Devin Leary, although,
I think that's a fit.
There's noise of Devin Leary somewhere else, right? Kentucky, I think, is what.
No, Graham Mertz is going to Kentucky. It looks like.
Graham Mertz at Kentucky, is that?
Yeah.
I think I saw him crystal balled on the 24/7 for what it's worth. I'm not sure what the portal crystal balls are worth, but I think Devin Leary's prediction is Kentucky right now.
Let's see. Yeah, he has a projection to Kentucky.
So, I mean, whatever that's worth. Like, this portal stuff is so new. Like, I don't take the recruiting crystal balls, like,
how dare he,
as gospel, but, who knows.
Yeah, that's weird. But I mean, with Liam coming back in the fold,